Hey guys, welcome to Car Talk. For this episode, we thought we'd go back to times of when we first got into cars and when modifying cars was really popular. I mean, obviously it's still popular now, but I think it was slightly more popular back then, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think we owed a lot of credit to films like The Fast and the Furious, Gone in 60 Seconds, and a load of other car things that were around at the time then. And I mean...
And also, there was a lot of car magazines like Redline, Fast Car, Max Power, which were all pushing modified cars and everything like that.
Oh, I love those times. And then, like, I mean, you could walk into Halfords. I mean, if you're lucky now, like if we go into Bridge End Halfords, they've still got some old stock on the bottom shelves. And to be honest, part of me wants to buy it just for nostalgia. But like, they've got old air filters in there and things like that. But like back in the day, I mean, you walked in, they had bucket seats that you could sit on whilst you were like perusing the catalogues. They had alloy wheels. They had stereo setups, subs, amps, wiring kits for that. They had different horns, different lights, anything. Well, a lot of things you could think of just in Halfords, which is all gone now. They also had places like Motor World, which is the same. So I mean, I suppose it was marketed towards us a lot more.
Yes,
but. It was just, there was a lot of culture there. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of culture now. There's a lot of car clubs, especially with everyone being connected online. It's got a lot bigger that way. But yeah, no, we were talking recently about mods which have come and gone. Mods that were put on other cars, maybe stolen off other cars that should have stayed on the other cars. Mods that everyone thought were great at the time that have become seen as crap now. And before we hurt anybody's feelings, again, this is an opinion video. Don't like it, turn it off. Or whatever. But yeah, it's one of them sort of thing. We're not aiming to target anyone or anything like that. This is just what we've noticed in the car scene. So but yeah, I was going to say, because I mean, the one thing I was going to start off by saying about as an example of this, for me, which was everywhere back in the early 2000s when we were out modifying our cars and everything, was Lexus lights.
Yes.
Everybody had Lexus lights, including Lexus themselves. However, I mean, to be honest, even back then I didn't like them. I always said the Lexus lights should be only one place, and that's on a Lexus.
If you're unsure which lights we're on about, they are the rear lights from the IS200.
Yeah, Lexus were one of the first companies to... They brought out the clear lights, the clear lenses with different colour lights in there. At the same time that everyone else had.
They weren't
red,
a strip of
amber,
red, a strip of orange, a strip of clear.
Yeah.
It was, you could see the shape of the light. You could see different colours in different areas. It wasn't just blocks. It was just. It was an attractive light cluster, I'll say that much.
On the Lexus it looked good, and to be honest, if you look at a lot of the modern cars now, it paved the way for a lot of the way that the modern cars are now, which is quite good. They've done a fantastic job, and it was on the IS200 or IS300, depending on where you were, and what engine you had. But beautiful car, I still love that car today. But when you had people with cars like mine, like Cavaliers and things like that with Lexus lights, I just thought it looked tacky, and I think everyone else followed suit shortly after, because you don't see him anywhere anymore.
No. And it was one of those things where you could guarantee if you went to a car show or, you know, like a cruise or something like that, and you walk round the back of, I'd say 75% of the cars, you go, I bet that's got Lexus lights on it. Yeah,
every car that had a body kit and a set of wheels on had Lexus lights, because it was a cheap mod to buy. Usually you could buy a brand spanking set of clusters for 60, 70 quid, and it would change the look of the back of your car. So I think that was price of it was one part of it, and the other part was everyone loved Lexus back then. So one of the first big Lexuses to hit our country, really. I mean, they had the the LS400 or IS400 before, but that was
more of an executive car, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, there wasn't many people when they brought out the IS200. That was everyone went nuts for, and everyone loved it, and that was when they imitated it. So, I mean, yeah, mods like that is one of the ones I'm sort of talking about, really.
Well, another one like that was M3 mirrors.
Yes.
they were the designer, the beautiful looking mirror. Don't get me wrong.
And the ones we're talking about is not just any M3. It was styled after the E36 M3 and M3 Evolution, with the smaller door mirrors, with the two spokes coming off and going into the A-pillar, wasn't it?
And once again, like Lexus lights, every bugger had them on their car.
I remember one of the guys down the car park. Do you remember? I won't say his name because it might embarrass him. But one of the guys down there had a Fiesta Mark III red one.
Yes.
And he actually had to make M3 mirrors fit that thing, I'm sure he had the A-pillar pieces cut out of wood. So he had like wooden A-pillar pieces with M3 mirrors on, which was brilliant. But it was, I mean, to be honest, back then we modded it any way we could, didn't we? I mean, fair play to him for thinking outside the box, but yeah, whenever I think M3 mirrors, that's always my first image.
And like you said, they were a gorgeous looking mirror, but everybody went for them, and therefore they became kind of crap because somebody had them.
Yeah, that's it. And I mean, and it's always been part of the modding scene, because I mean, another one going back to when we were there, before I go on, always part of the scene, going back to what you were saying, is another one is spinners.
Yes.
Didn't see many cars with them at the time in person because they were so damned expensive, wasn't it? It was like £2,000 for a set of wheels a lot of the time.
It was definitely one of the mods that came over from the States.
Yeah, and I mean, and back then, I mean, I'm saying £2,000 a set of wheels. That was back when like a good wage was £250 a week.
Yeah.
So you're looking at like 10 weeks worth of pay just for a set of wheels, and that was. And to be honest, I was never massively into them. They were kind of cool. I saw a couple of cars with them, and some of them were really cool. But for the price of them, it was absolutely ridiculous. And again, they seem to have just disappeared now. And if you mention spinners to anyone, they're just like, oh, God, like that. Yeah. And I mean, I think, I feel sorry for anyone that's still got a set, because I bet they're worth about 50 quid now, because no one wants them. So it's, but I mean, there's always been mods like it. Because I mean, you go back even further again, you think about like our parents, uncles, aunties, grandparents in some cases, what car stuff they had. And I always think, because my Uncle Rick brought me a car kit when I had my first car, and it did make me laugh. He brought it as a joke, but I had windscreen wiper spoilers on them.
Yes.
Which was a little plastic thing you stuck on your windscreen wipers that had little spoilers that going across like that. You see them on a lot of old Capris, old Escorts, old Novas, old Astras, things like that. Just give you an idea of how old that mod is.
They were the model choice for 1993.
Yeah, and well, late 80s, I would have said as well, because it had wiper boots on it as well, which was a little plastic or rubber gaiter that went over the edge of your wiper where it bolts onto the car. Yeah. And again, modern standards isn't not much point back then. I suppose it trying to tidy them up, but you didn't just get them in black either. You could get them in really bright colours.
Oh yeah, there was a market for them back then.
Yeah, another one, fuzzy dice. That was another one that came and gone. I mean, that was what, 60s, 70s, 80s.
Yeah.
Then I just think of the bad ones. I mean, one that you don't see anymore, which we were talking about recently actually, but it wasn't a mod for styling or anything like that, was the static strips.
Oh, of course, yeah.
You see them on all sorts of cars, and what they were is basically a strip, and I don't know how it worked because they all looked rubber to me.
Yeah.
But they would come down from the bottom of your car, and they would stick in the floor, and they would touch the floor, and it was supposed to stop you getting a static electric shock. If you've gone on a long journey, you go to grab the door handle on some of the old cars, it'd give you a little bit of a from the static electricity, and it was to stop all of that. But you don't see that on new cars anymore.
No.
But I don't think there's a need for it anymore, which is the reason that one's gone. But that, again, was something that didn't come standard, so it was a mod.
Another thing that used to be standard on all cars, and then they stopped for some reason, and then it came back a little bit because of rallying and bits and pieces, was mud flaps on a car.
Yeah.
When we were kids, every car had mud flaps, and then manufacturers decided that it derived from the look of the car, possibly, maybe they weren't needed so much, and they got rid of them.
I think, like a lot of things, manufacturers realised it was something they could charge for, to be honest, I think personally, because it's much like the spare wheel, I believe, is something that every car used to have, but the manufacturers say it saves weight if you don't have them on there.
But things like rally cars and bits and pieces like that always had, because obviously they were chucking up gravel and dirt and everything like that. And then, some people put mud flaps on as a modification to make them look more like rally cars then.
Funny enough, that is one thing I've noticed is coming back. A lot of people are doing it. I mean, I know, again, that's one thing that's always been there really for mods, because I know back, again, when we were modding our cars, I used to notice a lot of the Vauxhalls, for the people who like their Opals, or like Vauxhalls in our country, Opals everywhere else, was the Vauxhall ones with the logos on the back. You had the 3 different logos, and you had GM, Vauxhall, and something else. Might be an Opal.
Yeah.
And again, rally derived, but people still use them now. But it is something that I've noticed on a lot of people are getting them on the cars, going for the rally looking mud flaps, especially after the things like Monster and the Gymkhanas, Ken Block, people like that had rally and like they had rally derived cars now with the mud flaps and everything. So it does seem to be something that has come back. I'm noticing it more and more on cars.
Well, another one that's was there for a while, went and has come back, is undercar neons.
That's very true. Because funny enough, that was what I was about to say. I was going to say, carrying on with what that was saying. I was going to say, what mods have you noticed that came and went and are coming back? And yeah, neons is one of them. And I've got neons underneath my Beamer.
Yeah.
I don't even know if they still work. I've not used them in that long, but I did get a set because one of the chaps, my old friend from work, Martin, he said he was going to put them on his Skyline. He said, "No, you're not," thinking that he was joking. I said, "You put them on that, I'll put them on mine." And yeah, fair play to him, he did it, and I'm a man of my word. So I've got neons on the Beamer.
Well, you also had undercar neons on the first Cavalier as well, didn't you?
That's right. I had red ones, and yeah, that was until me and an ex-girlfriend were in a car park. And then we got seen there, and I went and drove off and caught the centre neons going over a grass verge and smashed them. So yeah,
because they became popular because of like Fast and Furious, like the scene at the start with the Civics with the green undercar neons and everything like that.
That's right. And then of course you had the Need for Speed Underground games, and they had them in there as well. That was one thing. That's gone and come back, and there's yeah, 'cause I can't think of a great deal of other ones like that because tech and everything's all moved on, isn't it? Because I mean, like, having a good car stereo, again, a lot of car stereos come standard with good ones now, but I have seen a few people putting subs back in occasionally.
Yeah, because that went for a while because you could get, you'd buy a car, say like an Audi or something like that, and it'd come with Bang & Olufsen or Bose or something like that, and you didn't necessarily need a sub then because the speakers were so good that...
And a lot of them now come with subwoofers in the spare wheel well, underneath the seats, things like that, and... Whereas back then you didn't have anything. You had cheap speakers, cheap stereo. You had something that you could just listen to a bit of music on, but it didn't necessarily mean you could listen to it nicely on it, really. No. But that was it. So upgrading your sound system was always a way to go if you liked your music. Everyone had an upgraded sound system back then, didn't they? And it's...
But it was one of the cheaper mods to do as well.
It was, yeah, depending on how far you went into it. And I admit it's very good. I still stand by it now. I still like upgrading my sound system. So yeah, really good. And it depends, because the other thing again is the same with every customization, every modification. You can make a car to your spec. Yeah. And that's the thing I always like about modifications. Because I mean, again, I'm going off course a little bit here, but like with my truck, like I've lifted it about 2.5, 3 inches. Yeah. And I've done it a cheaper way with 20% stronger springs. There's a video about that on our channel as well if you'd like to see it. But like somebody asked me the other day, said, is it better for off-road? And I said it's better, for me it's better on-road and off-road. And they said, how is that even possible? And I said, well, it's not as good as getting progressive springs off-road, but they're incredibly cheaper. But because they're the stiffer springs, it actually makes it handle. It doesn't roll as much on the road, so it's better on the road, which is where I do most of my driving. Yeah. Yeah, because it's giving me more ground clearance, it's still better for me off the road because I tend to bimble off road. I don't go flat out like a rally driver. So I said, for me and my situation, that truck is perfect. It's better on and off road for me. And that's what people tend to forget a lot of the time in the car scene, is the fact that everyone's car is modified it should be modified how you want it. That's the thing. It's an extension of you. So it's like, it doesn't really matter what anyone else thinks, but these are the mods, in our opinion, going back to what we were talking about, that have coming and gone. And I mean, like I say, I'm quite happy. I will quite happily tell someone if I think a mod's... Well, I won't tell them to their face if it's on their car, because that's just mean. But I will tell... If we're talking about mods, I'm quite happy to say, yeah, no, I thought that was crap. Things like that. But that's my opinion. It shouldn't affect how you want to do your car up.
Well, another one that's been and gone was... decals and vinyls and bits and pieces like that.
That's right, actually. I have seen a few people have got shopping lists back on their doors.
Have they?
Yeah,
I was about to bring up the shopping list.
I was going to say, I saw one the other day online. I was like, no way, it's coming back. Someone knows. When we talk about a shopping list, again, look at the first Fast and Furiouses. We'll have HKS, G-Ready, Sparco.
It was usually on the front wing was basically like the list of all the manufactured parts that they had added to their cars going down. So you get somebody in the, like you say, HKS, you get somebody else who'd have like, I don't know, maybe Cobra for their seats and bits and things like that. But it's basically, before you even look at the car, you go, right, I know they got that in there.
Yeah, and like you said, they were usually near the front of the car, either on the door or on the front wing usually, or front fender in America. I didn't even think about decals. And then it wasn't just that, it was the vinyl strips you could get in, like, or decals. You get, like, some people had tribals on it, and things like that, and all that sort of thing. But I think...
Even go faster stripes on cars that didn't have them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that has gone... The only reason I think that's gone a bit is because I think an extension of that, I suppose you could say, is vinyl wrapping.
Yes.
Because people are getting the cars wrapped now, and you can pretty much have whatever you want printed off there. And then you've got things like hydro dipping and things like that. So... I would have said that that's not gone, but it's evolved quite a lot. That one,
it's definitely progressed from the shopping list to where we are today.
That's it. And to be honest, some of it was god awful. Some of it was really terrible.
And but to be fair, a lot of it was
really nice.
Yeah. And to be fair, a lot of it was kind of like an advert to thieves. It's like, oh, that's got that in it, has it?
Yeah, that was the other. Yeah, I think that was another thing as well. And it's because that's another thing that, but cars still have them on there, and it's, I suppose, not really a mod now because any car with alloy wheels comes with them. Is lock and wheel nut keys.
Oh yeah.
Lock and wheel nuts and things like that. I mean, again, that's something that I'm seeing a lot less on normal day-to-day cars. But I think that's because the days of stealing wheels has gone a bit more, because every car comes with alloys. People used to steal wheels a lot more back in the 80s, 90s, because most cars you buy, if you had the baser specs, most cars you buy would have steel wheels on. So if you had the alloy wheels, it'd make your car look more specced up, so it'd make it look more posher than it was. The same as a lot of people buying GLS badges or GLX badges for cars that were only in L. And things like that. But people used to be a lot more judgy by the spec of your car back in the day, didn't they? If your dad drove a Cortina L instead of a Cortina GLX or Crusader, you were the poor family sort of thing. It was really weird.
Yeah, if you had a Ford with a gear badge, you was like, yeah, look at what I got.
Yeah, you were the top. Yeah, you were the dog's danglies.
And also the people that used to buy badges that weren't even related to the car. Like, you'd have somebody with a 2-litre car, but they put a V8 badge on the back.
Yeah, that's it. Because again, that's another thing you don't see with that as well. Do you remember when we used to get in the early 2000s? You used to get things like chrome dragon badges and things like that on cars. And that they used to come from Motor World as well. And you could get you get letters, couldn't you? People used to have their initials like DWK or like things like that on there, and you could get like 3 initials for like a £5 from Motor World and that. And again, I never got that one much. Some people would spell out Ford, like the classic Fords on their car and things like that. And it was.
I found that bumper stickers have gone that way as well. You used to get a lot of people who used to put like, not necessarily just on the bumper kind of thing, but anywhere on the car, like
honk if you bonk.
Yeah. And also people used to get the plates. They used to go around their license plate. They would have like something like if you could read this, you're too close and stuff like that.
Yeah, and because I say another mod as well, which has disappeared, and I am really gutted about because it's a mod I loved and I still love on my cars now, is interior items like the controls. Is people you'd have modified steering wheels, which again a lot of people are still doing now because of drift cars and things have made it big. But steering wheels, but back in those days, you used to get like a steering wheel, a gear knob, and a handbrake all to kind of match, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Like, so I had a Richbrook set up in my old Cavalier, and you had it all to match and everything, and it was all a bit more about looks than it was anything else.
Yeah.
Excuse my phone going off. But it looked lovely, and I've still got my Richbrook wheel hung up on my wall in there. I've had this since I was 18, but it's. So that's something I'm a bit gutted that seems to be disappearing. I mean, again, I suppose you could argue it's still there. Again, it seems to be coming back but it's not the same as it was before. Before you'd have like quite a small aluminium knob, and again, I've still got that as well. But now people are going for fucking, excuse my language, but ones that look like walking sticks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to just change gear up here a second. And I don't get that. And it's, so that's the one thing I really don't get. Because that actually brings me on to the last point I was going to ask you about, is what mods have you noticed around now that you think are going to be short-lived? They're not going to see the next, like, give it 10 years, people are going to be looking back going, oh my God, what was I doing?
That's a good question.
Because I have one.
Oh yeah, go for it.
And it's the pop and bang max for popcorn maps.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Because, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, my car on overrun, little tiny bit. But that's because it's been mapped, it's been played with, it's been tuned.
Yeah.
And that's good. And that's why rally cars and race cars do it.
Yeah.
Not because you're telling your ECU to overfuel like hell until it goes bang, 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 bang out the back. And I have to admit, and again, it was cool when it first came out because it made your car sound more like a race car. And I think a mild one is really good. But then you get some of them that just sounds like a shotgun going off. And from a mechanic's point of view, I remember cars coming into the workshop making sounds like that were coming in because there was something seriously wrong with them.
Yeah, they were actually broken.
So it's. I think that will be short-lived. I think in the future, right now, again, like I say, if you got them on your car and you love it, great, good for you, it's your car. But for me, I really, when I had my car mapped, I had my car mapped for better throttle response.
Yeah.
Because it's fly-by-wire. And they said, do you want pop and bang? I said, no, I really don't know. And it's... Yeah, I think that'll be short-lived, and I hope that'll be short-lived.
My one, and once again, not anything against anybody that's got it, is stanced wheels.
Yes.
Only purely... on some cars it looks great, and at certain angles it looks good, but I got to think...
look like you stood on a Hot Wheels, doesn't it?
I got to think it can't be good for your tyres, it can't be good for your suspension, it can't be good for turning corners. There's so many bits and pieces where I just think, oh, that can't be great for the car. I mean, obviously it must be all right to a certain extent because lots of people have it, but for me personally, I wouldn't have it. I'd say that much anyway.
Same here. I'm with you on that one. The only application I can see that being good in would be drifting.
Yes.
Because you've only got a very small bead of tyre touching the ground, which means you can break traction more. That's the only thing I don't get about... I've always been one that's been against mods that don't make your car quicker, handle better, or some way more like a race car, really. Yeah. And to be honest, that to me is one of them. Like having a bit of negative camber used to be good for the race cars, but that was because when you went around a corner and you threw all your weight onto that tyre, you'd have more rubber on the ground going around that corner, so it would make it handle better. Whereas when you've got the wheels like that, so there's literally like you've got a 225 wide tyre, and only 2.5 of that's touching the pavement, you're making your handling worse. Yeah. So I really don't get. I'm with you with that one. I don't really get it so much. And again, if you like it, it's like a lot
just not what we like.
Yeah, that's it. So and that might be something that goes. To be honest, I think that is already starting to go because you don't hear a lot of people talking about stance anymore.
I can't remember the last time I saw a car that was stance, to be honest. So
no, so yeah, I think that one is. That one is one that is going quite well at the minute. So, but
like normal, guys, if there's any mods that you can remember from time gone by, or mods that you thought, oh, they were great and not so much anymore, or mods that you see nowadays that are different, that we haven't mentioned that you think, oh, might be the future, might be the end kind of thing, let us know.
And yeah, I mean, to be honest, even if you've listened to this or watched this and there's something you don't like what we've said, and you'd like to try and tell us that we're wrong, then
we're always up for discussion.
Yeah, definitely. And we're quite happy we're quite happy to hear from you about all of that as well, and tell you how wrong you are, so that's fine. But we hope you enjoyed, and we'll catch you in the next video.
Cheers.